Who is your best friend? I don't have an urge to drink, but when I do, I go all out.
Yeah.
And I feel it for the next 5 days.
Oh,
and
we know. We can add a video right here of Mel going all out. Ultra luminary.
It took a while, but then I started to pick up on this pattern and the idea that you can't really help other people if you're broken yourself, right?
Welcome back to another episode of Dear ABG, where we answer your listener-submitted questions. If you don't know us, we run a podcast called ABG, Asian Boss Girl, a podcast for the modern-day Asian American woman. My name is Mel.
I'm Helen.
And I'm Janet.
So before we start with, your listener-submitted questions, we're going to ask each other a fun question. Who is your best friend?
Like one best friend? Let's go to the next question.
Yeah.
We can have multiple best friends, okay?
Yeah.
And two of mine are right here.
Aww. All right, so next question. Would you rather give up coffee or alcohol?
Okay, so I'm going to say, and this might surprise y'all, alcohol. Only because this past weekend we had a pretty alcohol-filled, boozy weekend, and I think I'm still feeling that right now in terms of like my not being able to wake up early and feeling groggy and still having like a little bit of a headache and like feeling it in my bones even. So I would say at this very point in my life, alcohol. Coffee, for some reason, I don't know if anyone else out there feels this way, but it has no impact on me, which is why it's kind of surprising that I would pick coffee. But I think it has this like placebo effect where if I have it in the morning, I feel especially productive for the rest of the day. So for me, getting up in the morning and having a cup of coffee, I don't know what coffee brands, your marketing, your brainwashing is doing when you say like, have a cup of coffee in the morning and you're gonna be able to wake up. Because I'm like, yes, give me that. I want to be able to wake up.
Best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I would say I would keep coffee and nix out the alcohol for now.
I actually have the opposite answer. I would choose to give up coffee. But once again, I want to say that this is an answer contingent on right now. With everything happening in 2020, I'm going to be honest, I've been drinking a moderate amount of wine, and I kind of like the pattern that I have right now. I don't feel like it's too much. The feeling of being able to relax with a glass of wine or to be able to go out on a weekend with friends, right now for me, that's quite valuable. But yeah, ask me again in even a year, my answer might be different.
I would keep coffee. With quarantine, especially, I don't have an urge to drink, but when I do, I go all out.
Yeah.
And I feel it for the next 5 days.
Oh,
and
we know. We can add a video right here of Mel going all out. Ultra luminary.
Yeah, my hangovers are just much worse now. And I'm also the type of person, when I drink alcohol, I like to go all out and go dancing. If I'm just sipping on a White Claw, it doesn't do much for me.
I see.
I'm actually really sensitive to caffeine.
Yeah.
I need caffeine in the morning or else I can't function. And I love the idea of I waking up and smelling the cup of coffee brewing and making yourself
also falling for the marketing.
Yeah, yes, it works. Because I think for me, a cup of coffee is a small little gift you give yourself in the morning.
Yeah,
It's a quiet moment. I don't have anything on. I play a podcast and I drink my coffee and I wake up. So I love that little routine I have and I can't give that up. So I would not give up coffee. I'll give up alcohol.
Got it.
Leave a comment below on what you would give up.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah.
So this first question that we have comes in from Katie, and she comes from LA, so neighbors. She says, one of my friends often mentions that they feel lonely, left out, or insecure in their friendships. How can I care for and support this friend without feeling burdened and while maintaining my own emotional boundaries?
I definitely struggled a lot with this when I was younger, especially. I'm a high empath person and also a people pleaser. So growing up, especially in my teenage and in my early career years, oftentimes what would happen is, a stressful situation is happening, like you're applying for college apps, right? And you're stressed out, and then your friends come to you and they're stressed out, and it's just this heavy event. And I used to just like overburden myself by feeling guilty, like I would have to be there for them. But in the process, I would burn myself out, right? It took a while, but then I started to pick up on this pattern and the idea that you can't really help other people if you're broken yourself, right? In terms of how to address it, I think just talk to your friends directly and share with them that you're feeling a sense of burnout or you're feeling kind of sensitive yourself, right? A good friend will understand that maybe your lack of action or your lack of support isn't a reflection of how you feel about them, but is more because you need to take the time to fulfill yourself. So just make sure you express that to them. How about you, Mel?
So I've been in the situation where I've been the friend that needs emotional support. I'm pretty sure I go to you too so much for that. And I also been the friend that has been the receiving end of like, I'm burnt out and someone else needs my support as well. So I've been in both shoes. I will say that one thing I learned that helped me being in both positions is one, before I call someone or ask a friend for help, I always text them saying, hey, can you talk? Or I ask them, are you free to have a chat? Because I think you're already setting the foreground or context is kind of explaining you probably need some time with this person. In both situations, I learned that when I set the foundation for the call, when I go into the call, I think my mind's a little bit more open-minded. And I have learned a lot of different things. Like for example, when I'm on a call with friends and I'm open-minded, I feel like they teach me things that I could give myself self-care to help better take care of myself versus relying on them. And then on the flip side, if I'm that friend that they need emotional support from, I think just also stating that when you're not in a good mindset, I always tell them like, hey, I'm so sorry that I'm not as present, I've been going through some things, but I would love to schedule a time to talk with you because I want to be intentional with my time. I don't want to be just texting some one-off answer that I don't care about because I think that's not genuine. So I always let them know like, hey, I want to be there for you. This is some time I want to set aside just for you so we can talk. And I'm sorry I'm going through a couple of things, but I do care about you. So just letting them know what's going with your mind and setting some specific time for them. So those are my tips for you.
That is really good advice. I think for me, I actually heard this question a little bit differently. And maybe I interpreted it completely wrong, but the way I heard it was that you have a friend in your friend group that always feels like they're maybe left out or unheard, or they might feel like the black sheep of the friend group or something like that. And to me, when I read that, I thought to myself, I've been in many situations that this has happened before, where there is someone who just is always like a little bit quiet, but it's always around and not really expressing themselves, and you can tell too. And I would ask myself, like in full honesty, do I really like this friend? Is she actually, or he actually a friend? Or are they just around for the sake of them being around and always consistently with this group? And a part of me was thinking, if the answer is yes, you want to go grab a drink with them and you don't feel burdened, you don't feel like it's an obligation, but you actually do care about them, then it won't feel like a lot of effort to sit down with them and have that discussion with them. But if for some reason you're feeling like, I just have to do this because it's uncomfortable or it's awkward, then honestly, I think maybe you have to not handhold this friend any longer and let them go. Because they might feel complacent, they might feel comfortable, they might just be like, okay, this is what I'm comfortable, these are my friends, but they're not really your friends. So there's a part of it that's really difficult where it's like you have to cut some friend ties if you think it's beneficial for them and also for your own mental health. If you're constantly burdened with this thought that like this friend is like, they don't feel like they belong here and it makes you sad. So that's actually the route I took, but I think you ladies gave really good advice for someone who might be going through something and need that emotional support.
I actually think that is a really good interpretation to take, because I think I've also been in those situations where I've been, as Mel said, both sides of the person that was like a part of the group and the person that felt like you were kind of just there. And I think at the end that's doing a service to the person that is not quite fitting into the group, because it helps them question maybe to find a group of people that they connect with more deeply. Yeah. Our next question comes from Lori, who writes in from Boston.
Boston!
Yeah. I knew that was coming, so I was like,
Lori writes, how do you approach a director on a project that you're working on when everything is new, but it is expected that you know what you're doing? I'm constantly stressed because I don't feel like I have a teammate I can go to with questions without feeling stupid. For more context, I work at an investment banking firm in a restructuring group. I'm the only female member on a team of 13 and I'm the youngest. I've been working for 5 years now, but my prior work experience was a different industry and I've been at the company for 1.5 years but feel behind. Any tips would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Whew, Lori, this is really tough. I would say what I would do is I would probably do research in terms of what I think this project entails. And then I'll set time and ask my manager or my director saying, hey, this is what I think direction of what you guys want to go, or the team wants to go, but I just want to clarify this is the right direction, because I think that is a better approach versus just asking them saying, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm someone else to take initiative and then show that I tried and like I'm thinking about what is the best method versus just being like, hey, what is the answer? Shows your director that you'll take initiative with projects.
I think the difficulty from what I'm hearing from Lori is that it's difficult for her to like approach her director because she is female and she is the youngest and she feels inexperienced. For context, like at my previous job, when I entered, I had a peer advisor. I had someone who was basically at my level and someone I could ask all these stupid questions to, which is good. Like you should be asking these questions and just vocalize them as much as you can. But if you don't have the support system to do that, then that's really difficult. I also had like a counselor that was there to really like help overlook my career trajectory and path.
That's true.
And so that was really helpful. And when I think about it, like companies should have an onboarding process, and it sounds like you were not given the support to do that. So a part of me, as I'm listening to your question and your comment here, it's more like it's really, sometimes it's not you, it's them. It's the company that should have had these things in place to make you feel comfortable. And separately, even though I did have that support system, like Google was still my best friend.
Yeah.
Still Googled everything because I didn't want to ask the stupid questions. But honestly, like no question is stupid. It's good if you were to ask that question. And again, I can see how it is extremely difficult when you are the only female joining basically a boys club, small company, and feeling inexperienced. I would say that be confident that they chose you for a reason. Of all the applicants that they accepted, you do belong there and they chose you for a reason. So keep, doing your research, keep asking questions, keep learning, and show them what you got, girl.
I want to answer what Helen said because I think she makes a really good point by having that peer or that mentor. Like for me in my job, when I didn't feel like I had that comfort level or security with my manager, I had someone else from a different team that I could go to for questions, and I felt safe and secure there. I don't know if there's maybe a female employee there that you could probably reach out to for help, or maybe that's an option. But yeah, Helen said that, it's been a year since you're at this job. It shows that you do have, the qualifications, everything needed to perform really well. So good luck.
Yeah. So I think sometimes you also have to fake the confidence before you make it. And unfortunately, that might be the case just given the environment that you're choosing to be into.
I definitely relate to this question. It made me think about like every time I started a new job, I realized that I always had a person. And oftentimes it wasn't necessarily the person who was my boss or that I was reporting to. It was either someone at my level or slightly above my level. And I think to Helen's point, my first job also, like I was given, a peer person to help teach me the technical stuff, and then a counselor to help manage my career. If you weren't given these things, I wonder if you could go to your HR department and request or ask. And then if there isn't a formal system in place, just kind of informally doing that to try to go to other people in your team. Of the 13 people, is there anyone who might be more receptive to you kind of like just asking more questions, right? And yes, Google. That's someone who's, like every new job, I'm like, oh, what is that? You write it down and you go back to your desk and, it's just putting in a little bit of that extra time or a lot of bit of that extra time. I know you said you have 5 years of working experience, but 1.5 years at a new thing is still young enough that you shouldn't know everything. So don't get down on yourself and just work hard and make use of all the resources that you can.
And that wraps today's episode of Dear ABG. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you have a question you would like to ask us or any advice that you would like to ask us as well, you can do so at the link below.
And if you haven't already, check out our most recent episode. We are a podcast called ABG, Asian Boss Girl. And we'll see you all on the next Dear ABG.
Bye! I'm so glad we can use that video. Ultra luminary.
To say that, like, oh shit, I lost my train of thought.
That's so itchy. I was like holding it in.
Show them what you got.
Sorry. And we'll see you guys and girls and everyone.
Damn it! Aliens too.